recent in-depth feature on the Houston Chronicle, and this is HoustonChronicle.com right now, showing that there are more than 500,000 Texans living with mental and development disabilities, but Texas right now only serving care for about a fifth of those individuals, meaning nearly 200,000 people are on waiting lists to get disability help, and some of them have been on those waiting lists for over a decade. The author of that piece is Alex Stuckey, who's joining us right now, Houston Chronicle investigative reporter, Pulitzer Prize winner, Livingston Award winner for her ongoing coverage of mental health access in Texas. Alex, welcome in. Good morning. I want to get right to it. Is it fair to call this a crisis of health, a crisis of care, and why ultimately?
Absolutely. I think you can definitely call it that. You know, there are people who have been waiting for 20 years almost to get services through these programs that are state and federally funded. So it's definitely a crisis. Most people with these kinds of disabilities cannot wait that long, especially if they do not have familial help.
Alex, what is so interesting when you look at some of the just the data that you found and present in this piece is that over the last 10 years, this situation has exploded. I mean, we're talking about some stuff growing by, like 100+%, some 1,000%. Why does this seem to be getting worse? Is it the health part of it? Is it the care part of it? Is it both?
You know, I think some of it can be attributed to people are getting diagnosed. They're knowing to go get diagnosed. So some of it is attributed to that, but it's also because there's not enough funding. For the kind of local safety net services, the state cut, $60 million from the budget and never really replenished it in 2011. And so that's where you're seeing, the 1,200% increase in a wait list for services. And then, you're also with the Medicaid waiver programs, which are kind of like there to make sure that people are staying in the community for care, not going to institutions. That is just it. The state has to fund slots, and the state is just not funding enough slots to meet the demand.
Okay, so it's interesting you bring that up. I think it's important to ask, certainly for our viewers who may not understand, does the state have an obligation to provide these disability services? Where and why is the state, obligated ultimately to provide funding, to provide care for disabled Texans?
So I think that's a much bigger question that I'm not sure I can fully answer. But the problem is these are Medicaid waiver programs. They're not entitlements. So, the state doesn't have to provide this care to individuals. And so that's why you're seeing these really long wait lists, not, and taking forever to make it to the top.
Alex, let's talk about the impact here, not just in the lack of care, but also so many families just waiting and not having really any recourse or maybe any idea when those basic services may come. In terms of being with these people up close, what's the impact there on them, on their families?
I think it's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty. The young man that I profiled for this story, his mom, is a lawyer. She does have funds, but she doesn't know how to take care of his specific needs, right? So it's always this, what am I going to do if someone calls the cops because he's having an outburst? What am I going to do if something happens to me? I don't know who's going to come in and check on him, who's going to come in and help him develop job and behavioral skills so that he can, function in society with a job and, paying his own bills once I am gone.
In terms of, I think it's good to get a picture. We're talking about the state of Texas. Where does Texas stand on disabled care and this specific situation in terms of the national picture, Alex?
There's a lot of states that have wait lists. Texas is very, very large. And there are some of that is attributed to kind of how big of a state we are. But, there are states that are kind of manipulating and changing how they handle these wait lists so that there really isn't a wait list, so that they're making sure the people with the most need are getting the care. And when someone reaches that level, can jump up to the top of the line. An example is Louisiana. They had 10,000 people on their wait list, and they sort of changed how they did it so that no one who really needed care was waiting for it.
It's so interesting. I was reading your piece, and kind of on that note, some lawmakers say, hey, we're doing the best we can. And then other lawmakers say, we need to overhaul this entire system, because if we do it right, we can service everybody, which sounds like what you're talking about happened there in the boot state in Louisiana. But I'll let you say it. Sort of, what is the Health of Human Services Commission? What are the Texas lawmakers that you're talking to? What are they saying about it, and what are they doing about it?
Yeah, for a long time, no one was really talking about it. I think it was kind of this secret's maybe not the right word, but kind of like a secret list, right? Like, people weren't really aware of it. I think now people are talking about it. In the past couple of years, they have funded like studies to see what other states are doing, kind of like made strategic plans about how, they can go about this. So there is some awareness of what's going on. The problem is, like, for example, in Louisiana, they went through and evaluated every single person on that list to see what their specific needs
Right.
were and if they needed care right now. That would cost a lot of money in Texas. There are 170,000 people on that list. And so I think that there is a barrier to that. And, that all falls on the legislature. HHSC, the state agency that handles this, they can only do so much without funding.
And I want to be clear here, because this term mental health has obviously been in the forefront in so many ways. It's certainly been a part of the discussion since the Uvalde massacre. But in terms of what we're talking about, this is Texans with sort of mental and developmental disabilities, things like people with autism. Is that kind of grouped in that same ballpark as mental health, or is sort of, disabilities something different in terms of like this funding and care that we're talking about, if that makes sense? Just trying to clear it up for myself.
Yeah, there's definitely some overlap. A lot of times if you have an intellectual or developmental disability, you also have some, mental health issues as well. They are sort of different, but it is in that kind of group of care where people need, a stepped up level of help that they are not getting.
And lastly, Alex, it'll be obviously interesting to sort of see where this goes. I mean, this is sort of so much of your entire career works. Again, won a Pulitzer Prize, most recently a Livingston Award. Congratulations on that. What's next for you? What's the big topic in terms of disabled health and care, in terms of mental health? What is the big question that you're asking, kind of the next big project, anything like that on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just kind of chugging along with, really pointing out the flaws in our system in terms of, mental health, intellectual and developmental disabilities, kind of trying to give a voice to the people who are really at need that Texas isn't really paying attention to.
Alex Stuckey with the Houston Chronicle, investigative reporter. I encourage you to go over to the HoustonChronicle.com. I don't know, is the paywall still up? Is it down? Yeah.
It's not. It's still free today. So please visit HoustonChronicle.com and read everything you can.
Part of 713 Day. And again, as I've said, Alex, I pay the subscription to the Houston Chronicle, a bunch of other, I wouldn't say a bunch, but a good many, sites that I really value. It's like, go over there when the paywall's down, but also encourage you to, get that subscription and not only support, but just for yourself to get information and context and resources like this. Alex, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Great job.
Thank you.